Yeah,
Yeah,
there are
yeah.
many around actually.
I've been to
Yeah,
his campus. It's just
Oh,
fantastic.
yeah. So you will see
so
peacocks all around this place. Yeah.
Sanjay, where is this? Which place?
Jamnagar.
Jamnagar.
In fact,
It's our
Mama
in
has
our
seen.
township. Mamaji has seen. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
Actually, we
nice.
were on a trip
Yeah.
to Dwarka, so we went from there and visited Sanjay ji. So he
Uh-huh.
took us around. It's beautiful.
Oh,
It's a beautiful township. It's more of a resort than a township.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it's like
1 second, I'm ready to start. Um,
Karthik,
yeah.
I was watching yesterday's session and the sound quality was very bad.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think the speakers were on,
Okay.
at least in the beginning
Somebody's
for
phone
first
is.
10 minutes. There were two or three speakers were on.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes, yes.
Jai
Yeah.
Baba.
So
Jai
that's
Baba.
yeah. That's why I keep insisting on muting, because what happens
Yes,
is
yes.
everything gets amplified when you record it.
It
All the
was not
defects
good.
also get, yeah,
Initial
defects get.
5, 7, 10 minutes, this was all, it was very difficult to understand. And it was a
Yes.
problem of speakers. Two
Yes.
or
Okay.
three speakers were open, I think.
Yep.
let's start.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jai Baba.
Jai
Jai
Baba.
Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai Meher Baba.
So, Namita ji, would you like to read the 7 realities today, if you don't mind? If you have the screen in front of you and you're comfortable. She's there, right? Yeah, she is. Maybe you're on mute.
Yes, she's picking
Oh,
her
you
up
have
book.
to me on Namita.
You
I
can
wasn't
read
very
from
sure.
screen, Nomita. She wants to pick up her book. Yeah, she will.
Oh, great. Okay. Give it a few seconds.
Yeah. Just read.
Give me a second, please.
Sure. Maybe I will announce this in advance so that people are
Okay.
more prepared.
The 7 realities: existence, love, sacrifice, renunciation, knowledge, control, and surrender. I give no importance to creed, dogma, caste, or the performance of religious ceremonies and rites, but to the understanding of the following 7 realities. Number 1. The only real existence is that of the one and only God, who is the self in every finite self. Number 2. The only real love is the love for this infinity, God, which arouses an intense longing to see, know, and become one with its truth, God. Number 3. The only real sacrifice is that in which, in pursuance of this love, all things, body, mind, possession, welfare, and even life itself are sacrificed. Number 4. The only real renunciation is that which abandons, even in the midst of worldly duties, all selfish thoughts and desires. Number 5. The only real knowledge is the knowledge that God is the inner dweller in good people and in so called bad, in saint and in so called sinner. The knowledge requires you to help all equally as circumstances demand, without expectation of reward. When compelled to take part in a dispute, to act without slightest trace of enmity or hatred, to try to make others happy with brotherly or sisterly feelings for each one, and to harm no one in thought, word, or deed, not even those who harm you. Number 6. The only real control is the discipline of the senses to abstain from indulgence in low desires, which alone ensures absolute purity of character. Number 7. The only real surrender is that in which poise is undisturbed by any adverse circumstance. and the individual, amidst every kind of hardship, is resigned with perfect calm to the will of God. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Jai Baba. Thank you. Thank you. So with that, we'll get started on part 5, page 323 on the physical. Requesting all mics to go on mute. Please jump in when you want to ask a question or interrupt. Part 5, the need for male and female incarnations. Though the facilities of male and female form is the subtitle. Or if you guys prefer, I can try muting everybody every time. Do you want me to do that?
Yeah.
That's even more complicated, I guess. 1 second, I'm just doing it. It's not even
There's
showing it.
a message from Rahul.
Yeah.
He wants to. Hello, not able to log in. Sorry to disturb on that, but
Yeah,
not
can you
log in.
just send him the link and ask him to try again, because I'm not able to see. We didn't hear his
Please
message
call
at all.
group chat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ashok. Facilities of male and female form. Though the facilities afforded by each sex vary according to the age and place in which the incarnation occurs, each sex affords special facilities for the development of experience along specific lines. The lessons readily learned in male incarnations may not be easily attainable through female incarnations, and the lessons readily learned in female incarnations may not be easily attainable in male incarnations. As a rule, men excel in qualities of the head and will. They are capable of sound judgment and steadfast purpose. As a rule, women excel in qualities of the heart. They are capable of intense love, which makes them welcome any sacrifice for the loved one. It is because of this capacity of women for love that in devotional references to the avatar, the name of a woman is often given precedence, as when bhaktas of Rama or Krishna sing of Sita Ram or Radha Krishna. In qualities of the heart, women are usually superior to men, and in qualities of the head and will, men are usually superior to women. The interesting point is the same soul excels in the qualities of the heart or in the qualities of the head and will, according to whether it takes an incarnation in a female or male form. The alternate development of specific spiritual qualities goes on.
Text is not visible.
Is that for a?
I'm reading from the screen.
Yeah, your screen is not visible, Karthik.
Oh, okay. I think it says reconnecting. So I'm connected in 2 places. I didn't even realize that one thing is gone. Just 1 second.
Jai Baba, I still feel that Karthik is trying very desperately.
What's that? Rahul,
Not
you mean?
Karthik, Rahul. Sorry, I'm terrible with names.
Yeah. So
I'm trying to send him the link I sent yesterday, but I don't think.
It on Teams. I don't have his number. I sent him on Teams.
So he's trying from yesterday.
No. Yesterday he got on and later, right? Okay. For some reason, this is just not even opening. I'm sorry about this. Yeah, there he is. I see him. He's added.
Okay, good. Jai Baba.
I'm just restarting Teams. Thank God I'm connected in two places.
I think your mind is on the next meeting as of now. That's why you are connected on two places now.
That's a good one. No, I'm not worried at all. No, I said two devices. Yes, but
Okay, just kidding.
I was telling them how I'm having my.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Jai Baba.
Boss, why are we having connection issues? It's second day. It's Jai Baba, everybody. It's the second day.
So I'll have to work with you offline because I don't know. You're the only one having
Okay,
the
bro.
trouble.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Sorry for troubling you guys.
No problem. One second, just rejoining. Okay, there's some problem in this edition. So can somebody give me the page number? I have it. 1 second, I have it. 345. I'm just changing devices.
324 on the hard. Yeah, 324 on the hard copy.
Got it. I got it. Thank you. Is it visible now?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Okay.
Just increase the font a little bit.
Okay.
Actually, you can zoom out also on the screen. That's what I do normally.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So is this better or a little more?
Good for me.
Fine.
This is great.
Yeah. So I'm starting with the second paragraph on 324. Male and female incarnations equally indispensable. Since the male and female incarnations are equally necessary for self-knowledge, it is not right to look upon one as being more important than the other. Though there are differences between the nature of the respective facilities afforded by them, they are both indispensable. The soul must go through male incarnations as well as female incarnations if it is to have that richness of experience, which is a condition of attaining the realization that the soul in itself is beyond all forms of duality, including the accentuated duality based on sex. Unity of subject and object. Before the soul is set free from all samskaras, it assumes numerous male forms and numerous female forms. If the soul were to incarnate only in male forms or only in female forms, its experience would remain one-sided and incomplete. The duality of experience can be overcome only through understanding, and the understanding of experience is only partial as long as it moves within the limits of only one of the two opposites. Unity of the subject and object of experience is unattainable as long as there is in the object any aspect or element not fully covered by one's own experience, and this applies particularly to sexual duality. Mind retains experience of incarnations. The mind retains the gathered experience of male and female incarnations. Since the soul identifies itself with the body, the psychological tendencies that harmonize with the sex of the body find a suitable medium for expression. The tendencies that are characteristic of the opposite sex are ordinarily suppressed into the unconscious part of the mind, because they do not harmonize with the sex of the body and find the medium of expression obstructive. When the soul takes a female body, the male tendencies are, so to speak, held in abeyance, and only the female tendencies are released for expression. In the same way, when the soul takes a male body, the female tendencies are held in abeyance, and the male tendencies are released for expression. Identification with the body involves identification with the sex of the body. It therefore implies a free play only for that limited part of the mind which is in tune with the sex of the body, since the other part of the mind is repressed and latent in the unconscious. Somebody should go on mute. This constant humming. Yeah, now everybody. There arises. Did I just miss a page? The mind is repressed and latent in the unconscious. There arises in the conscious part a feeling of incompleteness as well as a tendency to restore completeness through attachment to persons of the opposite sex. By getting entangled with the opposite sex, the buried part of the mind that is not in tune with the body seeks some kind of expression through another. From this point of view, sexual attraction might be said to be a result of the effort of the mind makes to unite with its own unconscious part. So this section is called Genesis of Sexual Entanglement. And during God Speaks, I remember Kama brought this up and beautifully explained this aspect as to what explains the policy. I mean the aspect of attraction of the opposite sexes and how sex plays a role in the reincarnation. So I continue. Sex is a manifestation of the ignorant attempt the conscious mind makes to compensate for the fragmentation entailed in identification with the sex of the body. This attempt to compensate for fragmentation is doomed to be futile. However, because it is not only based upon identification with the body, but actually accentuates it by setting into the opposition the body of the opposite sex and getting entangled with it through attachment and possessiveness. Understanding through detachment. When the soul is trying to overcome sexual duality through detachment from the opposite sex, it is paving a way for understanding the experience associated with the opposite sex from within. Then a man tries to understand a woman, not through the eyes of the male, but through the imaginative reaching out toward what the woman feels herself to be in her own personal experience. In the same way, a woman then tries to understand a man not through the eyes of the female, but through the imaginative reaching out toward what a man feels himself to be in his own personal experience. So, paradoxical though it may seem, the form of opposite sex prevents the true understanding of experience associated with the opposite sex. Detachment from the form of the opposite sex facilitates true understanding of the experience associated with the opposite sex because it removes the barrier created by sex-obsessed imagination. Freedom from sex-ridden imagination. If one is transcending sexual duality and trying to understand the experience associated with the opposite sex, sometimes one actually exhibits the trait usually associated with the opposite sex. Thus, for example, some aspirants in the male body at one phase or another actually put on the clothes of women, talk like them, feel like them, and take on their habits. But this is only a passing phase. When inner understanding of the relevant experiences is complete, they neither experience themselves as alone, as male alone, nor as female alone, but as being beyond the distinction of sex. The experiences connected with the male and female forms are both accessible and intelligible to the aspirants who have transcended sexual distinctions. They remain unaffected by the limitations of either because, through understanding, they have freed themselves from the limiting obsessions characteristic of sex-ridden imagination. Reconciliation of conscious and unconscious mind. The completeness that the mind seeks is not attainable through attachment to other forms and their accession. It is to be sought within by recapturing the lost unity of the mind. Reconciliation of the conscious and the unconscious mind is possible not through sexual attraction or through other forms of possessiveness, but through non-identification with the body and its sex. Non-identification with the body removes the barrier that prevents the amalgamation and integration of the total experience deposited in the mind. Completeness within is to be sought by overcoming sexual duality and distinction, which accentuate identification with the body. To be free from divine love is the next section. To be free from attachment to the opposite sex is to be free from the domination of sex of the body in which the soul has incarnated itself, thereby annihilating the majority of those samskaras that compel the soul to identify itself with the body. The transcending of sexual duality does not in itself amount to the overcoming of all duality, but it certainly goes a long way towards facilitating the complete transcendence of duality in all its forms. On the other hand, it is equally true that the problem of sexual duality is a part of the problem of duality as such. Its complete solution comes when the wider problem of all duality is solved through divine love, in which there is neither I nor you, neither man nor woman. The purpose of male and female incarnations is the same as the purpose of evolution itself. It is to enable the soul to arrive at its own undivided and indivisible existence. With that, we come to the close of part 5. So I'll
Karthik,
take a pause. Yeah.
I thought maybe it's better that Kama re-explains the genesis of sexual entanglement because not everybody was there when we read God's Peace.
Very good idea.
And also, I thought we discussed before, but I'm forgetting. Nowadays, it's not just duality. People talk about spectrum of, sexes. There are gays, there are bisexuals, and so on and so forth. So I think Kama did make a comment in past about that. I'm forgetting, but maybe leave it to Kama to explain.
Yeah, Jai Baba, can you hear?
Yes.
Jai Baba.
Just before we continue, Samira ji, you're back on the audio, right? I see a message just now. You're able to hear us. I think she's on mute, or she's not even on. Oh. Okay, keep going, guys.
Yeah. Jai Baba, one of the things I want to mention is these 2 chapters that we have read, part 4, specific conditions of an incarnation, that was yesterday, and today part 5, which is the need for male and female incarnations, I believe are one of the most important chapters, at least from my point of view, from a practical point of view, because we are leading life in the 21st century. And so I believe that these 2 chapters are very important. The previous chapter, part 4, was more of a macro level, where it talked about the evolving, how the sexual identification evolves from mineral plants and all that. So that was pretty much easy. And it also talked about why we are born in the East and West and different cycles of time. And we are born as a male and female. Now, in this chapter, part 5, the need for male and female incarnations, what we are seeing out here is it's basically focused more on the human being. So when you look at the human being, you have 2 sex genders, male and female. And it's clearly said that since male and female incarnations are equally necessary for self-knowledge, it is not right to look upon one as being more important than the other. So, I mean, if we take the practical example of, Vidya, if I don't mind saying this, that she was born as Dr. Neelu and now she is Vidya, like in a female form. And second thing is that the soul doesn't have any gender. The only thing is, because the way the divine plan is, you need to take both male or female incarnations in different cycles of time, because as it says, though the facilities afforded by each sex vary according to the age and place in which the incarnation occurs, each sex affords special facilities for the development of experience along specific lines. So one important thing that I mentioned last time was that it says men excel in qualities of the head and will. They are capable of sound judgment and steadfast purpose. As a rule, women excel in qualities of the heart. They are capable of intense love, which makes them welcome any sacrifice for the loved one. So in qualities of the heart, women are usually superior to men. And in qualities of the head or mind and will, men are usually superior to women. But I'm also adding one more thing that Baba said. There has to be a balance of the heart and mind or head in our day-to-day life. But heart always has precedence over the mind. So that is the 80-20 rule, which I talked about. 80% of the time, heart should all the mind, and head and heart can walk together. Now, coming back to the aspect of genesis of sexual entanglement, it's very interesting because when you look at the male body and the female body, all three have three bodies: gross body, subtle body, and mental body. But the difference is the facilities. There are certain aspects that are unique to males and there are certain aspects which are unique to females. The second thing we also have to consider is each soul has a conscious mind and a subconscious mind. Here they use the term unconscious. This is another thing I noticed in the English dictionary. They use the same terminology for unconscious mind and subconscious mind, the same thing. So this is something one should be very cognizant about. So each body, each male or female form has to deal with the conscious mind as well as the subconscious mind. And another thing that you want to do out here when you read discourses is when it talks about tendencies, always write down as psychological tendencies whenever the expression tendencies comes. So here it says that the psychological tendencies that are characteristic of the opposite sex are ordinarily suppressed into the unconscious part of the mind, which is the subconscious, because they do not harmonize with the sex of the body and find the medium of expression obstructive, which means that when you are born in a male form, only the male psychological tendencies comes into the conscious mind, and the female psychological tendencies are sublimated in the subconscious, and vice versa for the female. But because the soul has no gender and it wants to, and it wants to feel united, that is why there is this attraction between male and female incarnations. So, sorry, 1 second. So the point here is, I think it's very important out here is that the reason for male and female attraction is because the soul wants to feel complete. Because of the when the consciousness of the soul is trapped in the male or female body, the soul feels incomplete. So this is one way of actually having this attraction. But again, the paradox out here is we get attracted to the gross form of the body, whether male or female. But as we know that the bodies, gross body, subtle body, mental body are not permanent. Only the soul is permanent. And the consciousness of the soul is going through different degrees of development. So in the human form, it has reached full and complete consciousness, but it is not able to be awakened to its divinity because of sanskaras. So that is why the solution also that is given out here is, when the soul is trying to overcome sexual duality through detachment from the opposite sex, it is paving a way for understanding the experience associated with the opposite sex from within. So then a man tries to understand a woman not through the eyes of the male, but through the imaginative reaching out toward what the woman feels herself to be in her own personal experience, and the same thing for the woman. Now I'll give you one example. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, when he was going through a sadhana, there was one time where he actually dressed as a woman for, I don't know, probably 6 months or a year, just to, experience that. He also experienced being a follower of Islam. He also experienced being a follower of Christianity. If you have read the Gospel of Ramakrishna, So that is one example. And the second thing is when Sunil talked about, we have all these, just not male and female, you have all these gays, all those transgenders and all that. My understanding is that it's all because of sanskaras. I think as we all know, before we take a human form, before we are born, we actually prepare our game plan as to how we want to lead our life. So probably that is why, and statistically we know that 10% of the population is gay. So I'm not going to talk about bisexuals, but 10% of the people statistically are gay. It's been scientifically done. So the takeaway from this whole chapter is, for me, is one, it talks about detachment from the form of the opposite sex facilitates true understanding of the experience associated with the opposite sex, because it removes the barrier created by sex-obsessed imagination. And the second thing, in the last paragraph, it talks about the transcending of sexual duality does not in itself amount to the overcoming of all duality, but it certainly goes a long way toward facilitating the complete transcendence of duality in all its forms. So even in the ancient scriptures, we have heard how Vishwamitra was, kind of tempted and all that. So sexual duality almost plays 25 to 50% of all duality. So this is a subset of duality as such. And so the bottom line is detachment and non-identification are the two important conditions if we want to transcend sexual duality. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, thank you.
Can I, regarding the gays and transgenders, there are two issues. One is they are physically in one sex, but psychologically they may feel the other sex. That is one aspect. The other one is they are, by their DNA or by any gross malformation, genetic malformation, they have equipments which are different from their psychological makeup, or non-adaptable for any sexual activity. That is another section. So they have their problems there. So we are more concerned here with the psychological makeup and the play of that on the gross body or gross sphere, I think.
Yeah, correct. I think the key is this aspiration to discover what is not and go towards that completeness, which is what plays out in this whole attraction and moving from the duality and identification to the alternate sex. But yeah, the minority problem of LGBT is, I don't want to call it a problem. It's basically a tendency that is both congenital or medical or clinical and psychological, which is, I think, become more acute or more public in the coming years than ever before. I think it was always there.
So the answer for everybody, male, female, and transgenders, or all kinds of non-dual sexual characters, is to disassociate from the form. Is that the conclusion?
Yes,
detachment from the form.
Yes, non-identification with the form of the body, because the soul has no gender. Whether you're male or female, we all have one self. And the soul is already complete, but we have wrong identification with the body creation.
Perfect.
And thing I've asked this question to Vidya, page number 5, that paragraph, that subtitle called Understanding Through Detachment. It's been very difficult for me to, kind of grasp that. I can theoretically understand, but I wanted to see if Vidya can add some color on that particular paragraph, Understanding Through Detachment, in page number 325.
Yeah, so I think this chapter focuses on how it explains, how we can, how we understand our body sex, and how we can transcend that sexual thoughts into spiritual. How do we can get unity with that? Because the complication or the problem of dealing with sex is everyone's problem, whether it is open or it is secret, but it is a problem because we do not know how to deal with it, and because of the social conditioning and other issues, it is always attached with some guilt. There is all these issues. So Baba speaks about it so that we can deal with our bodies in a better way. And this, in my experience, I can share my experience how I understood this whole thing is about one accepting ourselves, our bodies fully, and not to attach any guilt to the body and all that, these thoughts and all that stuff. The second thing is doing anything which is unusual or artificial or anything which is not natural will lead to further complications in this whole thing. Getting attracted to the opposite sex, which is quite but natural, but one has to understand the truth that the other person, the other gender, in a way, it is not so much of sex here, it is about the gender. The other gender is also a soul in some gross body. And there is nothing great and nothing so, no need to give so much of importance to the other gender that you want to associate yourself with that gender and try to understand and all that, because the detachment, at that level of detachment will shift our focus from this kind of thoughts to the spiritual thought. So the first level was acceptance of our own body, and second thing is accepting other gender also as a soul which is on the spiritual path. So I think the process of understanding that happens is different for different people. It may not be the same, but it is a very high advanced level of attachment, because Maya is playing. So everything has to be understood, in completeness, that the Maya is going to play a greater role in our lives too when we deal with these things. And unless we have a higher level of understanding, the ease with which we can, we can understand detachment in this particular aspect is going to be different. So I don't know whether I'm able to answer. To me, it is easy for me, because for me, I don't get overpowered by sexual thoughts or this and that, because I know that the attachment, it is only Maya and attachment that is playing role in this. And dwelling on these things will keep us away from spiritual things because of our social conditioning. Yes. Kama, you want to say something?
Sunil, does that help?
No. Yeah, that I think definitely. I think she said it. That it is the soul in everyone. So if we are able to overcome and transcend the form of the body, and that is a challenge, because I always think to myself, why am I having lust, greed, and anger? Yes, I have evolved from the animal kingdom, and I went through reincarnation. I had to experience many things. Now, with the grace of Baba, I'm actually aware of why I'm having these kind of issues. So he's given us this, understanding now. And I think that's why it's important to read these books, Discourses and God Speaks, because it gives an understanding of why we behave in a certain way and why other people behave in a certain way and why we respond or react to the other sex, depending on the situation. So,
I also wanted to add here, as far as transgenders are concerned, which is the natural creation of their body. So, but as far as gays are concerned, I think there is a lot of someone is trying to a set of people are trying to say that they are naturally built, their bodies are naturally built in a certain way. It is because we are all having the male thoughts and female thoughts. Like I would probably behave more like a man than a woman. I know my behavior is like that. But at the same time, I have to accept my body, female body, and I have to comply with those things. So, but in some cases, because of the weak minds, I would say that they are trying to get an acceptance from the society that yes, we want to behave like opposite sex instead of accepting their own bodies, because there will be always sanskars of the male thoughts and female thoughts will be there in everyone. Some men will behave like women, some women will behave like men, because we are made of both. Now it's only the dominant part of it. But if you artificially try to get an acceptance about it, it is not divine intervention. It is again human intervention that you are like you might get legally, you might get acceptance in the society, but it would create a lot of conflict inside, and it would also create a lot of conflict outside, which will keep them away from the spiritual path.
I would like to add a little. Kama.
No, go ahead, please.
Yeah, the Wali and Peace, they wear these lehenga and choli and all those, and this is all to evoke the other side, you know, and they understand how this soul works in male and female body, and through their own body as male, they try to reduce the other side of the, you know, all the karmic of the other side also. So in the same body, they reduce not only the karma of this time and this body, but also the other side. So this is a process which they do, so they don't need to linger on and come back again. So that's why they wear lehenga, and that's why they go into that process. That is what I heard from someone. So I'm just sharing this. Yeah. Thank you.
I just wanted to make one more comment. Is based on my experience and understanding. I've lived in New York City. I've been to the village and all that, and I've met, my wife and I had a lot of gay friends. I have kind of, and what I noticed was even among my Indian friends who are very male chauvinists, they are very disturbed, and they actually say, negative comments about the community. To me, the basic aspect of the community is a lot of them are organic and some of them are unnatural, as Vidya said. But I feel it's because of sanskaras. This is my basic understanding. And second thing is that,
Mama, 1 second. Don't blame everything on sanskaras. I keep hearing it all many times that many people just do anything and say it is sanskaras, it is sanskaras, it is sanskaras. It is God has given us common sense to understand what's right, what is wrong. Do anything and say I have done it due to my sanskaras. That is not somewhere that doesn't somewhere totally sound okay.
I am talking based on the context of the situation.
Definitely something to do with sanskar.
Can I just finish? I am just saying that based on the context of the subject that we are reading now. I'm not saying everything is about sanskaras. I'm saying that why some people have those kind of tendencies, why some people are born with certain handicaps and all those kind of things, that sanskaras play a role. And also
that is true. Correct. Right.
And also I feel that people who resent the LGBT community, there is a law of sanskaras where it says that when you hate somebody, you have to experience that person's personality, So this is one of the important things that we need to take away from this, is that just because of our own, a lack of understanding of the laws of nature, if we hate a particular community because of the way they behave or whatever, we might need to experience that kind of, psychology to neutralize the effect of sanskaras. So this is just my point of view. Jai Baba.
Yeah, I agree with you completely,
Jai,
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, I think after this chapter on the subject that we are talking, there is another related chapter is on page 99, the problem of sex, which I think gives practical solutions, to the real life that Baba has given. So maybe you can consider reading it after this. So it is because that chapter at the place where it is actually disconnected from the other chapters around.
Actually, that's a very
Just a
point.
proposal. Yeah.
Yeah, no. I think what you said is perfectly correct because I was
Yeah.
planning to tell. I just didn't want to confuse people too much. But you're right. Actually, after this, Karthik, if it's okay with you, what Nigam said that you can read those two chapters. One is the sanctification of married life, and the other one is about the sex part.
Yeah.
So we can go there if you think it makes
Page
sense.
99.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Sex
that'll be
99
more
of the
practical.
sex.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They are one after the other. Yeah.
you're correct.
Page 99. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll update the records on the Excel. So how are we doing on time? Yeah. Okay. So I'll just continue. Page 99 on the physical book. The problem of sex. The element of sex is the subtitle. Sex is decidedly one of the most important problems with which the human mind is confronted in the domain of duality. It is one of the givens in the makeup of human nature that one has to deal with. Like everything else in human life, sex comes to be judged through the opposites, which are the necessary creations of the limited mind. Just as the mind tries to fit life into a scheme of alternatives such as joy or pain, good or bad, solitude or company, attraction or repulsion in relation to sex, it tends to think of indulgence and repression as alternatives from which there is no escape. It seems as if the mind must accept the one alternative or the other. Yet it cannot wholeheartedly accept either. When it tries repression, it is dissatisfied with its lot and longingly thinks of indulgence. When it tries indulgence, it becomes conscious of its bondage to the senses and seeks freedom by going back to mechanical repression. The mind remains dissatisfied with both alternatives, and there thus arises one of the most vital and complicated problems of human life. In order to solve the opposites of indulgence and repression, in order to solve the problem of sex, the mind must first understand that both alternatives are equally the creation of imagination working under the deluding influence of craving. Craving is implicitly present in the repression of sex as well and as in its gratification. Both result in the vitiation of consciousness through lust or the desire for sensations. The mind is therefore inevitably restless in either alternative. Just as when there are clouds in the sky, there is gloom and lack of sunshine, whether it rains or not, so when the human mind is shrouded by craving, there is a diminution of being and lack of true happiness, whether this craving is gratified or not. The mind, when restless with desire, creates an illusory idea of happiness in the gratification of desire, and then, knowing that the soul remains dissatisfied even after gratification of desire, seeks freedom through repression. Thus, searching for happiness and freedom, the mind gets caught up in the opposites of indulgence and repression, which it finds equally disappointing. Since it does not try to go beyond these opposites, its movement is always from one opposite to the other, and consequently from one disappointment to another. False promises of opposites. Thus, craving falsifies the operation of imagination and presents the mind with the option between the alternatives of indulgence and repression, which prove to be equally deceptive in their promise of happiness. However, in spite of alternative and repeated disappointment in indulgence as well as in repression, the mind usually does not renounce the cause of unhappiness, which is craving. Hence, while experiencing disappointment in repression, it is easily susceptible to the false promise of gratification. And while experiencing disappointment in gratification, it is easily susceptible to the false promise of purely mechanical repression. Renunciation of craving through awakening. One second. Yeah. This is like moving within a cage. The gateway to the spiritual path of internal and spontaneous renunciation of craving remains closed for those who have not the good fortune to be awakened by a perfect master. True awakening is the entering into the path of wisdom, which in course of time surely leads to the freedom and abiding happiness of life eternal. Internal and spontaneous renunciation of craving is as different from mechanical repression as it is from indulgence. Mind turns to the mechanical repression of craving because of disappointment, but it turns to internal and spontaneous renunciation of craving because of disillusionment or awakening. The need for indulgence or mechanical repression arises only when the nature of craving is not clearly grasped. When aspirants become fully aware to the inevitable bondage and suffering entailed by craving, they begin voluntarily to disburden themselves of craving through intelligent understanding. Understanding craving is the section. The question of indulgence or repression arises only when there is craving. The need for both vanishes with the complete disappearance of craving. When the mind is free from craving, the mind can no longer be moved by the false promises of indulgence or mechanical repression. Restraint is nearer to freedom than indulgence. However, it should be borne in mind that the life of freedom is nearer to the life of restraint than to the life of indulgence, though in quality it is essentially different from both. Hence, for aspirants, a life of strict celibacy is preferable to married life if restraint comes to them easily without undue sense of self-repression. Such restraint is difficult for most persons and sometimes impossible, and for them, married life is decidedly more helpful than a life of celibacy. For ordinary persons, married life is undoubtedly advisable unless they have a special aptitude for celibacy. Possibilities of celibacy or marriage. Just as the life of celibacy requires and calls forth the development of many virtues, married life in turn also nourishes the growth of many spiritual qualities of utmost importance. The value of celibacy lies in the habit of restraint and the sense of detachment and independence it gives. But as long as the mind is not altogether free from craving, there is no true freedom. In the same way, the value of marriage lies in the lessons of mutual adjustment and the sense of unity with the other. True union or dissolution of duality is possible, however, only through divine love, which can never dawn as long as there is the slightest shadow of lust or craving in the mind. Only by treading the path of inner and spontaneous renunciation of craving is it possible to attain true freedom and unity. Path of perfection open through celibacy or marriage. For those who are celibate as well as for married persons, the path of inner life is the same. When aspirants are drawn by the truth, they long for nothing else, and as the truth increasingly comes with their ken, they gradually disburden themselves for craving. Whether in celibacy or in marriage, they are no longer swayed by the deceptive promises of indulgence or mechanical repression. Muting, please. And they practice internal and spontaneous renunciation of craving until they are freed from the deceptive opposites. The path of perfection is open to aspirants whether in celibacy or in marriage. and whether they begin from celibacy or from marriage will depend upon their sanskaras and karmic ties of the past. They cheerfully accept the conditions that their past lives have determined for them and utilize these conditions for spiritual advancement in the light of the ideal they have come to perceive. Necessity of clear choice. Aspirants must choose one of the two courses that are open to them. They must take to a life of celibacy or to a married life and must avoid at all costs a cheap compromise between the two. Promiscuity in sexual gratification is bound to land the aspirants in the most pitiful and dangerous chaos of ungovernable lust. As such, diffused and undirected lust wields the higher values. It perpetuates entanglement and creates in the spiritual path insuperable difficulties to the internal and spontaneous renunciation of craving. Sex in marriage is entirely different from sex outside marriage. In marriage, the samskaras of lust are much lighter and are capable of being removed more easily. When a sexual relationship is accompanied by a sense of responsibility, love, and spiritual idealism, conditions for the sublimation of sex are much more favorable than when it is cheap and promiscuous. Dangers of promiscuity. In promiscuity, the temptation to explore the possibilities of mere sexual contact is formidable. It is only by the maximum restriction of the scope of mere sex that aspirants can arrive at any real understanding of the values attainable through the gradual transformation of sex into love. If the mind tries to understand sex through increasing the scope of sex, there is no end to the delusions to which it is prey for. There is no end to the delusions to which it is prey, for there is no end to the enlarging of its scope. In promiscuity, the suggestions of lust are necessarily the first to present themselves to the mind, and the individuals are doomed to react to people within the limitation of this initial perversion and thus close the door to deeper experiences. Truth cannot be grasped by skipping over the surface of life and multiplying superficial contacts. It requires preparedness of mind, which can center its capacities upon selected experiences and free itself from its limiting features. This process of discrimination between the higher and the lower, and the transcendence of the lower in favor of the higher, is made possible through wholehearted concentration and a real and earnest interest in life. Infinity attainable through marriage is the name of the section. Such wholehearted concentration and real interest is necessarily precluded when the mind becomes a slave to the habit of running at a tangent and wandering between many possible objects of similar experience. In married life, the range of experience to be had in the company of the partner is so wide that the suggestions of lust are not necessarily the first to present themselves to the mind. There is therefore a real opportunity for the aspirants to recognize and annul the limiting factors in experience. By the gradual elimination of lust and the progression through a series of increasingly richer experiences of love and sacrifice, they can finally arrive at infinity. I think we end this chapter. Yeah. So I will pause here from a reading perspective, but any quick discussion, surely pick it up.
This is Kama. I can say that the takeaway from this chapter was the gateway to the spiritual path of internal and spontaneous renunciation of craving remains closed for those who have not the good fortune to be awakened by a perfect master. And internal and spontaneous renunciation of craving is as different from mechanical repression as it is from indulgence. So, so I think that this to me was an important bullet point here. Jai Baba.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I can add a lot of things, but we can wait till tomorrow. I want others to participate.
Yeah, tomorrow we'll go to the real grind. Let's go to marriage.
Don't ask us too many questions, please. We are the only couple here.
That's a good one. We will confidently grill you because both of you are honest. And we are confident that our better halves are not there. In all this, Mama will keep laughing peacefully.
Tomorrow we would request everyone to bring their partners.
Namita is saying tomorrow everybody should bring their partners.
So that's what Mama will laugh it away very easily. She's the only lucky one.
I'll ask Dolly. Yeah, she'll join. Yeah.
Sure.
Jai Baba.
All
Jai
right,
Baba.
everybody
Good
have
idea.
a good day.
Yeah.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, everyone.
Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Yeah. Jai Baba.